Well, good morning. It is great to be together to dig into God's Word. And we're going to talk about the question that Jesus asks. You know, we were on this journey just in the last little while talking about how God speaks to us. And this is a question that Jesus asks us. He's asking you this question this morning, actually. And you're going to have an opportunity to answer it. But as we begin, I was thinking as I was getting ready for this message, I thought of a good friend of ours. His name is David Drury. His dad was Keith Drury. And when we lived in Indianapolis, our boys were all really little, and he babysat for us. He was a wonderful babysitter. He could drive himself. That meant he could drive himself home, which was a really great thing. And the boys loved him because he would wrestle with them and just have fun, together. And when we would come home, I'll never forget this, because we had other babysitters that did not do this, just saying. And all their little clothes would be in little piles like this, and all their little shoes would be lined up. I'm like, this is amazing. He was in high school at that point. He was in our youth group. He grew up. He went to school. He's got a doctorate now. And at one point, he and his dad wrote a book together. Now, I cannot remember the name of the book to tell you. They wrote it together, and I do remember this illustration. It has just stuck to me so much, because he tells a story about how his dad, when he was growing up, wanted him to understand how much God loves him and how much God gives. And he's such a generous God. He gives to us, and he loves us, and he cares for us. So he said, my dad took me, he said, I'm taking you to Walmart. And he said, you can buy anything you want. Anything. So David said, I went in, I looked around, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to buy. And he said, I found now you all remember cassettes, okay? He said, I found a cassette case. So that was, he's old enough that was what he was using, a cassette case to carry my cassettes in it. And I said, Dad, this is what I want. And Dad said, that's what you want? And he said, yeah. It was probably between $10 and $20. He said, I come to find out when I got home that my dad had a whole wad of money in his pocket, a lot of money that he was ready to spend. And he said, and I chose a cassette case. Now, keep that in mind, because you know what? I kind of feel like sometimes we're that way with God. We have a generous God who wants to give to us, and he asks us this question that we're going to talk about this morning, and we have the opportunity to answer it. So keep that in mind, and you can turn to Mark chapter 10, we're going to read verses 46 to 52, and this man, I told you I remembered that story, but this man in this story has a story that he will never forget. He will tell it all of his life. I'm sure he did, because it changed his life so dramatically. So let's read together from verse 46 of chapter 10 of Mark. Then they reached Jericho, and as Jesus and his disciples left town, a large crowd followed him. A blind beggar named Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, was sitting beside the road. When Bartimaeus heard that Jesus of Nazareth was nearby, he began to shout, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. Be quiet, many of the people yelled at him. But he only shouted louder, Son of David, have mercy on me. Then when Jesus heard him, he stopped and said, tell him to come here. So they called the blind man. Cheer up, they said. Come on, he's calling you. Bartimaeus threw aside his coat, jumped up, and came to Jesus. What do you want me to do for you? Jesus asked. My rabbi, the blind man said, I want to see. And Jesus said to him, go, for your faith has healed you. Instantly the man could see, and he followed Jesus down the road. What a great story of transformation. Just to kind of give you a little bit of background, Jesus and his disciples are headed to Jerusalem, and this will be They're headed to Jerusalem for Passover. This will be the last time because Jesus will die at this point. So this is the last time for Jesus to go through Jericho at this point. And his ministry is coming to an end. Jesus' ministry is. There's lots of people in Jericho because the entourage of people, the priests and everybody are on their way to Jerusalem. So there's a lot of people here in Jericho when this takes place. I want you to notice a couple of things about what happened when Jesus asked Bartimaeus to come to him. First of all, his posture. Okay? He threw off his coat and he ran to Jesus. And when Bartimaeus heard that Jesus was nearby, what did he say? Jesus is here. He knew that he was coming because the crowd, he couldn't see them. But he heard that Jesus was nearby. I just want to remind you of something this morning, that Jesus is here. Okay, he's here. So if you think that Jesus is somewhere else today and you have something you want to talk to him about, he's here. He's here with us. Some things that we need to understand about the culture and what was going on for Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus was blind, and he was a beggar because that's all you could do. It says he was the son of Timaeus. So there are quite a few effects his blindness has on his family. So we're not going to go there this morning, but in John chapter 9, the disciples asked Jesus, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? There was a theological understanding at this time that if you were blind or if you were deaf or if you had some kind of ailment that you were born with, that somebody sinned. So his family believed that there was some kind of sin, which the whole culture would believe that. Okay, around them they have this understanding that somebody did something bad, there's sin, and that's why Bartimaeus can't see. That was kind of a cultural, theological understanding. Do you know what? There are places in our world today that when children are born with some kind of an ailment, they are born with a limb that doesn't work, or their eyes, or their ears, there's something wrong, they will be told, this is today, okay? This is today. They are told to take that child to the woods and let them die. Okay? So this is in this time, they believe that there's sin. In where we live today, that people are literally doing this. They're taking their children. World Hope International is dealing with these kinds of things. They're trying to help people understand that there's nothing, we need to love these kids. These kids are from that God has given them to them. So there's a cultural understanding that somebody has sinned. And Jesus said to the disciples that neither this man nor his parents have sinned. So every day, Bartimaeus comes and he sits and he begs. But this day he heard that Jesus was coming. And he had heard that Jesus does miracles. And so with courage and confidence, and I love his courage and his confidence as he calls out to Jesus, have mercy on me. And the people around, did you notice in the story what they did? They told him to be quiet. He's not going to be quiet. He is tenacious about what he wants. He keeps yelling out, have mercy on me, Jesus, have mercy. And finally, Jesus hears him and he says, come here to me. And this is the question. This is the question that Jesus asked him, the question that he asks all of us. Jesus said, what do you want me to do for you? Now, at first, when you read the story at first, you go, well, what do you think he wants? He's blind, But Jesus asks him that question to find out what he really wants. Okay? Now we can be really short-sighted about this question in our life. Okay? And Bartimaeus knew what he wanted, but he could have asked for a lot of things. First of all, he was a beggar. So what do beggars ask for? Money. Okay? And he probably knew that Jesus, this entourage of disciples, had money. They did. They had money that they gave to the poor. He could have asked for money. He could have asked for them to take him to Jerusalem. You know, all of you, could you help me get to Jerusalem? I don't get to go to Jerusalem for the Passover. Could you take me with you? I promise I won't be any bother to you. Would you just take me? You are merciful. Would you take me with you? He could have just asked that he wants to meet Jesus. I just want to meet you. And when you're blind and you can't see, you see with your fingers. Could I just touch your face? You know, I just want to meet you. I want to find out what you're like, and I just want to talk to you. Like, he could have asked for all of those things, okay? But he only had one request, and it was the bottom line of his life. He said, I want to see. I want to see. You know, I have to think about David's tape case. His dad would have given him anything in the store. He chose a tape case. You know, sometimes we do that, you know. God says, what do you want me to do for you? And we think, well, God probably wouldn't do that for me, but like, I can ask him if we could just like meet together or something. You know, like, what is it? What is it you want? Because Jesus asks us all this question, what do you want me to do for you? And Jesus said to him, verse 52, go, for your faith has healed you. And instantly the man could see, and he followed Jesus down the road. Transformation took place. A revelation of who God is. Who heals the sight of people? God does. So there's a revelation of God. There's a freedom, a new freedom for this man. It's a new day, a new chapter, and a new future. He can get a job. He does not have to beg anymore. Life has just opened up for him. It's a new day. And imagine, you've never seen anything in your life, and imagine the first person you lay your eyes on is Jesus, God. Your eyes are opened. And when faith heals, revelation of God takes place in every single one of our lives. We see the merciful compassion of God. And Jesus gave him a new life, and he said, go, your faith has healed you. Faith heals. You know, I love, we did Alpha a lot of times, especially when we were in Nova Scotia. We've done it once since we've been here. But I love the stories that come out of Alpha, the Alpha course, because people who were blind in life could see because Jesus healed them. Their faith healed them. And you hear story after story of people who, like prisoners, who they went to prison because they did something that put them there. But while they were there, they came to know who Jesus is, and their faith healed them. And they had a new kind of freedom. Some of those prisoners, when they got out, they went back to tell their friends in prison about Jesus, because Jesus heals. He changes the way we think. He changes everything. So there are three things that I want us to notice about that Bartimaeus, we're going to call him Bart. Three things that Bart had that we have. First of all, he had a need. He had a physical need. What's your need this morning? You know, maybe it's physical, but maybe there are other things going on in your life. Maybe it's an emotional need. You've got some struggles with anger, or you need more joy, or you're struggling with envy, or greed, or unforgiveness. You know, like, what is the challenges? Because we all have struggles, and we get trapped in our blindness. We just think it can't change. And then we have to answer that question. Jesus says, what do you want me to do for you? Do we really want to see? Because if we want to see, Jesus may show us something that needs to change, and that change may be something that we have to do in and of ourselves. Bring something to him. Ask for forgiveness. because that's how we become free. That's how transformation happens. He had a need. What is your need? And I want to remind you that Bart had a need and he wasn't afraid to state it. What's your need? Like, what is it? What are you struggling with? What do you need Jesus to do for you? The second thing that Bart had was he had a faith, and faith is action. Faith is not something, like people say, well, I got my faith. I'm like, well, what does that actually mean? You know? We actually do the things in life that we actually believe. You know, you can talk about all of the things that you believe in. You know, I believe that Jesus can heal. Really? Okay. So if what we say we believe is what we actually do. And so faith is action, and he believes that Jesus can change him. And he believes his part is to ask. And he cries out for mercy. He believed that Jesus could change things. And he threw it off his coat and ran. What is it that we need to throw off so we can actually believe that Jesus can do what he wants to do in our life? Because sometimes we hold on to things. Like we hold on to things that we believe are more important than actually getting the freedom. Maybe we hold on to, we don't want to forgive. We want to be bitter. Or we don't think that God can heal things in our life that need to change, so we hold on to them. We just think, well, I don't know what God's going to do about that. Well, he's asking us, what do you want me to do for you? What is it that we want to do? What you want him to do? 2025 for our family was a year of, I will always remember it as being a difficult year. My mom got sick with cancer, and she passed away, and I had an opportunity to spend time with her. And at the same time, we were walking this journey together as a family, and Jay found out in September that he had cancer. And so then, we were doing a lot of doctor's appointments. We found out that he needs surgery. And on this journey, we began to see something that was very important to understand where God is in all of this. Because you know what? When you're in this whole flutter of life and all the things that are going on, it is really easy to lose sight of where God is in all of that. It just feels like a lot of noise. There's a lot of stuff going on. And so, God, where are you? And you go back to his promises, and you let him walk with you. And I don't know which day it was, but all of a sudden, I began to see all of the miracles that God had done for us. Okay? We asked, what do you want me to do for you? Jesus says, well, I don't want my husband to have cancer. Number one. That's the big one. I don't want him to have cancer. And then God began to open my eyes to all of the miracles that God had already been doing. First of all, in Canada, it is difficult to get in with a specialist. We had our doctor who got him in touch with a specialist, and within a very short amount of time, Jay was able to get in with a specialist. That there is a miracle. And then the specialist asked him the most peculiar question. He said, have you ever had an MRI? I'm like, what doctor asks you that question? They usually say, well, we'll have to set you up. He said, have you ever had an MRI? And Jay said, no. He said, well, let's do that. And he got him in quickly. And then in the MRI, he said, I see something here. I don't think it's much. But he said, I think, let's do a biopsy. Quick. We're talking quick here. Another miracle. And then when we found out he had cancer, he said he needs surgery immediately. And we got in for surgery immediately. And so God began to show me, he opened our eyes to see what miracles that he had already been doing. And sometimes we miss because maybe we ask for something that God doesn't give us the way we think we need it. We all have expectations of what God should do. Wow, wouldn't we do life different if we were God? So we all have these expectations of what we think God should do, but I don't know the big picture. And we don't know the big picture. But what we need to look is when Jesus asks us this question, what do you want me to do for you? I want to see what you see, Jesus. I want to see what you want to show me And if you don't give me this that I really want this, but I at least want to see what you want to show me in this process. You know, the children of Israel, I'm actually in my Bible reading right now, I'm in Exodus, and the children of Israel were extremely short-sighted. Okay, now mind you, Moses has been up the mountain for 6 weeks, and they don't know what's happened to him. Okay, they think he might have, I don't know, maybe they thought he died. I mean, if he's gone for 6 weeks and they haven't heard anything, they're waiting at the bottom for him to come down, but he hasn't come back. And so they go to Aaron and they say, we want a God. We want a God so we can worship a God that's taken us out of Egypt. Who took them out of Egypt? God had taken them out of Egypt. But they're so short-sighted and they forget so quickly what God has done. So they ask Aaron, and when Moses comes down the mountain, and he is really upset. And when Moses comes down the mountain, Aaron's response is, well, we got all this gold together and out popped this calf, so that they could worship. Did they so quickly forget who God was? So, see, we can do that. When we get in the middle of challenges of life, we can so easily forget our faith in God and put our faith in other stuff. We put our faith in things that are not going to make a difference, like the calf. But Bartimaeus has such tenacious faith. I just love his faith. What do you want me to do for you, Bartimaeus? I want to see. I don't want your money. I don't want to go to Jerusalem. I don't want any of that. I want to see. That's what I want. He goes to the deepest thing in his life, and he said, I want to see. He believed, Bartimaeus believed that the impossible was possible with God. What do you believe? What do you believe about the impossible? The second thing that Bartimaeus had that we also have is a desire. He wanted to experience Jesus. He wanted to meet him and have his life changed forever. So what does meeting Jesus mean for each of us? Is it just like a casual relationship? Something maybe that happened a long time ago? Or he's somewhere out there in my life. I hope he hears something I have to say. Where is Jesus? What kind of a desire do we have to know who Jesus is? What is our relationship with Jesus? I mean, the first step in having a relationship with Jesus is coming to salvation and understanding just what we had in communion this morning, that Jesus died for our sins. There is no way to get to God unless we come to him through the cross and accept what Jesus has done on the cross for us. Our good works are nothing. They don't save us. Jesus saves us. The first step in understanding and having a desire to really know God is having that desire to come to him through salvation. That's the first step. But that's not the only step. Once we come to Jesus in salvation, every day is another day to live in grace and grow and learn and become more Christ-like, because he transforms us. He transforms the way we think and the way we do things. And as we listen to what he's telling us every single day, he helps us grow in our relationship with him. And Jesus asks every one of us, what do you want me to do for you? Do I have a desire to see, or do I want to hang on to things myself? Do I think that somehow, if I hold on to this long enough, something good will come of it? Or are we willing to actually just have a desire to say, I want to see Jesus, I'm surrendering, I just want to see what you got for me. I want healing physically, emotionally, or in my relationships. I want a new outlook of joy for today. Or maybe it's, I want to live a life filled with gratitude, or live in humility. I want to live a forgiving life. I want to live a life of freedom. And we all come to these crossroads in life. We all do. Every single one of us. I want to see which way is right in the healing in the deepest parts of my life. I want to see forward. I want to see how I can go forward, Lord. Bartimaeus had a need. He had faith and he had a desire. And he took all of that to Jesus. And Jesus transformed his life. Once you come to Jesus, he begins to transform the way you think about a lot of things in life. I want you to look at this picture, and I want you to talk to me and tell me what you see. What do you see? You see friends. What are they drinking? They're drinking coffee. Do you see Jesus? How many of you can see Jesus? Once you see Jesus in this picture, every time you see the picture, you'll see him. We'll just leave that up there because that's a really good example of what we're talking about. Life happens, and we need to look through the circumstances of our life to see Jesus. I want to see, Bartimaeus said, I want to see. Because once we see life from his perspective, life changes. I want to share a story with you of someone who didn't see. Someone who didn't see. Someone who missed it. The Indian poet Tagore tells the story of a beggar who sees a golden carriage approaching from afar, like a gorgeous dream. Realizing that it is the carriage of the king, the beggar prays for riches. This, he believes, is the greatest opportunity of his life. Sure enough, the carriage stops when the beggar stands and the king climbs out with a smile. But then the strangest thing happens. The king stretches out his empty hand and asks the beggar, "What have you to give to me?" Confused and uncertain, the beggar reaches into his bag and takes out a grain of corn. Only one grain of corn, and the smallest. Is this a joke? Slowly, he places it in the king's palm, the little tiny grain of corn. At the end of the day, when the beggar empties his bag on the floor, he is surprised to discover a single grain of pure gold. But only one, and the smallest. I wept bitterly, the beggar said, and wished that I had the heart to give my all. You know, sometimes we hold back things and think that we're going to be better off than if we just give it all. And Jesus asks us this question: what do you want me to do for you? And then the answer we can say is, I want to see. Do we really want to see what he has for us? Bartimaeus ran to Jesus and he gave him everything. Wow, what if he'd only asked for money? He would have missed out on the greatest miracle of his life. As we close, I'm going to ask the band to come back. And as we close this morning, I'm just going to give us the opportunity to, in the quiet, okay, with just the room in quietness, to just rest in God's presence and take in this question. Okay? The question that Jesus is asking every single one of us: what do you want me to do for you? What is it that you really want God to do for you? Will you choose will you choose like Bartimaeus could have? Would you choose something a little less? Or is there something deep within you that you go, this is what I really want? I want to see. So in the quiet, we're just going to take a few minutes because God is speaking to us. What is it you really, really want? What do you want me to do for you, Jesus asks. Let's just take a few moments, and then I'll pray with us. Lord, in the quiet, you're speaking. And I pray that you will open the eyes of our hearts and help us to see Jesus like Bartimaeus did. And you are asking each one of us the same question that you asked Bartimaeus that day. What do you want me to do for you? And Lord, may each of us pray today, I want to see. I want to see what you see, Lord. Not just what I see. We can be so short-sighted, but I want to see what you see. And I want to be willing to allow you to change in my life the things that need to change. To rest in your presence. Lord, help us to see. Amen. We're going to sing as we end this morning. And this song says that we're made for more. God always has more for us. The question is, can I believe and have faith enough to believe what God sees that he has for me? And he wants us to move forward with him. It says we are chosen, we're free, we're forgiven, and we have a future. You know what? Bartimaeus would love this song because he experienced it. And so as we sing, you just place whatever it is that you brought to Jesus this morning in his hands. And as we finish up, if there are some of you who you go, you know what, I just like to hang around and I just like to pray about some things. You just come forward. We'll have some prayer time. Just come up and we can talk and pray. And if there's anything that you would like to do to pray about, that would be great. So let's sing together as we close this morning. And you just commit whatever it is to Jesus this morning.